Do you remember the story of the tortoise and the hare? The story of their race. The story from which the lesson that slow and steady wins the race is derived from. This case study is going to be very similar. In the previous case study, we looked at Big Bazaar. In this one, we'll be looking at the tortoise, which is Dmart. Dmart became a behemoth in the retail industry, beating giants like Big Bazaar and Reliance Retail. What's even more perplexing is that while Reliance Retail and Big Bazaar both took thousands of crores of loans to expand, Dmart has never taken a rupee in external debt. They even today remain as a debt-free company. But in that case, how did they manage to grow so big? Well, we'll find out in this video. Welcome to another video of our channel and to our 17th business case study. This time on the rise of Dmart. We will be looking at 5 strategies that they use to beat their competitors and establish themselves as a giant in the competitive retail industry. We will also very objectively be comparing them to some of their competitors. So without wasting time, let's get started. To understand the rise of any business, we first need to look at its founder. In this case, Radhakishan Damani. Radhakishan Damani was born in 1955 in Bikaner, Rajasthan. Post his 12th grade, he studied BCom in University of Mumbai but dropped out within a year. His family had a stockbroking business, but Damani ji wanted to go ahead and start out something of his own, and he started a ball bearing business. However, soon after the demise of his father, he joined his brother in their stockbroking business. And guess what? For those of you who know, he found immense success in the stock markets. In fact, he was the guru or the mentor of the legendary investor late Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. If you watch Scam 1992, the Harshad Mehta story, his role has been portrayed by this character. After seeing immense success in the stock markets, Damani ji wanted to start out something of his own. He wanted to dabble into the retail industry, which is why he got a franchisee of Apna Bazaar in 1999. However, he disagreed with their business model and later started something of his own, something which would later go on to dominate the Indian retail space. Back in the days, the retail industry was largely dominated by small kirana stores, but he wanted to play a bigger game. He wanted to leverage economics of scale, and this is how Dmart came into being. He incorporated the company as Avenue Supermart in 2000, and Dmart's first store was opened in 2002, just a year after Big Bazaar in Powai. By the way, talking about Big Bazaar, this is where I tell you why am I calling Dmart the tortoise in this story. If you've checked out a previous case study, you would know that Big Bazaar was started in 2001, whereas Dmart was started in 2002. Within a span of 10 years, while Big Bazaar opened 250 stores, Dmart only opened 10 stores. Why were they growing so slow? Well, this brings us to the first reason behind their success. The store ownership model. Dmart chose to own the stores that they operated, unlike their competitors who were renting the space out. While this did lead to slower growth, a direct impact of this could also be seen in their cost structures. For instance, while the rental cost as a percentage of revenue in the case of Big Bazaar was 8%, it is less than 0.2% in the case of Dmart. Further, while Big Bazaar opened its stores in urban centers and places like malls, Dmart opened its stores in suburbs. This also played very well for them because the stores that they initially opened up in suburbs turned out to be in areas which would eventually become bustling neighborhoods. For instance, Powai itself. In 2002, Powai was a quiet suburb with limited infrastructure known primarily for IIT Bombay. But today, it's a bustling urban hub with skyscrapers, premium residential complexes, top MNCs, cafes, and malls. Now, because they chose to own the properties that they operated, over time the property values as well in such locations have gone up, unlike the competitors who now just have to pay higher rents. In addition to the store ownership model, another strategy used by Dmart is cluster-based expansion strategy. Instead of opening new stores in a randomized manner in different cities, the way Big Bazaar did, Dmart has been very particular about it, opening new stores in more or less the same localities. Now, at the face of it, this seems very counterintuitive because if you were to open a new store in a new location, it would attract new crowd, right? Whereas an existing store in an existing place would already act like competition for your newer store in the same location. This is why when Big Bazaar started, Big Bazaar opened 3 stores simultaneously in Kolkata, Bangalore and Hyderabad. But do you know where the second and third store of Dmart was opened? The second store was opened in Powai and the third store was opened near Powai as well. But why did they do that? Well, because cluster-based expansion strategy also comes with a massive advantage, particularly with regards to supply chain. Think about it from your perspective. Let's say you had to open 5 Kirana stores. Would you choose to open them in 5 different cities or in rather neighboring surroundings? If you open these 5 stores right around where you live, it would be much easier for you to deal with supply chain headaches, inventory management, and so on. If a good is not present in one of the stores, you can just get it over there from one of the other stores, right? Further, instead of hiring different store managers for each of the stores, you could just hire one store manager and have him take care of 2 to 3 of those stores, right? It just makes the entire process a lot easier. This is exactly the advantage that Dmart played upon. Concentrating stores in a region reduces supply chain costs, ensuring faster inventory replenishment and lower logistics expenses. And since we are talking about costs and expenses, this brings us to the third reason behind their success: cost control and discounting. In India, groceries account for 41% of a household's expenditure. So if as a household you can optimize on this cost, you'll probably try to. And this is exactly the game Dmart plays. Dmart gives deep discounts. At a Dmart, you will usually see things selling at a discount of 8% to 15% on the MRP. It's usually cheaper than what you'll find anywhere else. Here is how they're able to do it. Firstly, through economics of scale, and secondly, because of cost cutting. Dmart doesn't have fancy stores or interiors. In fact, they are extremely simple and minimalistic. In fact, if you've ever visited a Walmart in the US, you'll be surprised as to how similar Dmart and Walmart really are. And the reason behind that is that when Dmart was envisioned by Radhakishan Damani ji, his key inspiration was Walmart and Sam Walton. But simplicity in design and interior can only help cut costs so much, right? Because vendors anyway would want their full payment. This brings us to the fourth strategy behind their success, which is fostering great relationship with vendors. While other retailers took 30 to 40 days to clear vendor payments, Dmart does this within 7 days. And as a result of this, vendors are often very happy to give them discounts on their products. Almost the highest discounts in the entire industry. And because of such low operational expenses, Dmart can very easily transfer a lot of these discounts to customers like you and I. Now coming to the best part. What do customers mostly buy from Dmart? You would most likely think groceries, food, soaps, shampoos, and some other home and personal care items, right? Well, yes. But what's also interesting in their product mix is that a quarter of Dmart's revenue comes from general merchandise, such as sales of clothes, footwear, crockery, and so on. Now, while the margins on food and non-food FMCG products are really low, their margins on gross merchandise is pretty high. This is a very common strategy used by retail giants, especially in Europe and the US. Many of them sell everyday products like milk, eggs, and bread at a loss. Why? Only to attract you to the stores and then somehow sell you more stuff which they would be selling at a higher margin. This is true with Dmart as well. They don't really sell things at a loss, but their margins on their food and non-food FMCG products is in low single digits, whereas their margins on their gross merchandise is about 20 to 30%. Now let us have a look at the outcome of all these strategies and compare it to its competitors. In terms of revenue per square feet, while it stands at 14,000 rupees in the case of Reliance Retail, it is nearly 35,000 rupees in the case of Dmart. In terms of profit per square feet as well, while it is just 250 rupees per square feet in the case of Reliance Retail, for Dmart it is nearly 1,000 rupees per square feet. While everyone else was focused on catering to the rich urban population, which usually tends to have insane discretionary income, Dmart focused on the vast majority of our country's population, India's middle class. And we all know how it turned out for them. Dmart today has a market capitalization of 2.5 lakh crores, which means it is worth 2.5 lakh crores, and its revenue sits at 60,000 crores per annum. Isn't that crazy? And all of that in just 23 years. This was the story of Dmart. If you haven't already, I also encourage you to check out our previous case study, which was on the rise and fall of Big Bazaar. That said, I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. And as always, thank you so much for watching.